and welcome to another episode of Life Lessons in Bon Jovi songs. And we're at the fourth album, New Jersey, from 1988. And it was the successor of the previous album, which was Slippery When Wet, and that happened their biggie. So they were hell bent to create something spectacular and to they prove themselves basically. And this was also because strangely Bon Jovi had kind of like managed to get on the wrong side of the opinion of the press. So they were hugely popular. um, the Slippery When Wet album would prove to be the most or the most sold album, like the most best-selling album. I don't know, I can't really articulate it, but you know what I mean. It was the biggest album of the 80s, rock album of the 80s. Um and yet at the same time the critical acclaim had been marginal. It was like they had a lot of things to say about Bon Jovi, and they were not nice things. You know, that's kind of like the general gist of it. So there was this animosity between the press and the fans and the band on the other side. Um, so they were really, the least they wanted to do with this new album was to prove that they were not a fluke, that they were not um, a one day success. So, one day success, is that an English term? They wanted to prove that they were there to last. So, they got into the studio with the same team as the previous album. So, their success team from Slippery When Wet, and they started the process of creating a new album, and that became New Jersey. And it's actually my favorite album, and it's the favorite album of a lot of Bon Jovi fans. So even though that in number of sales it was never as popular as Slippery, um, because that was the best selling record of the 80s. It was the fans really liked it. And uh, um, uh, and even the press, they definitely got better press reviews for New Jersey than they had for any of the previous records. So that was also a win. So we're at that record, and we had the first two songs were "Lay Your Hands on Me," which was a studio production, and so it was really created in a studio environment for with a specific effect in mind. Like they wanted to have a really strong album opener, but also to have a really strong concert opener. So it was produced in the studio. It was not like they were overflowing with inspiration and then Lay Your Hands on Me came out. No, it was really created in the studio itself. Pretty much last minute. So it was not one of the earlier demos either. There are no demos of Lay Your Hands on Me. Then the second song I reviewed was Bad Medicine, second song of the album, which was also um pretty focused, pretty much with a specific aim in mind, which was to bridge the gap between the previous album and this new album, New Jersey. So it was definitely the song on the album that leaned the strongest towards Slippery When Wet. And so that song too was very much with a specific aim in mind. And then we get at the third song on this album, which is Born to Be My Baby. And that's really the first song where you can see that they start experimenting, but at the same time it was also kind of like a kind of like being on the fence a lot about what the song was going to be and what they wanted from the song. And so it was directionless if you compare it to the first two songs, and the way it came into being. And by the number of variations and iterations that we have from Born to Be My Baby, you can still see that process. So it first came out, as in creatively came out, in the form of a completely different song, which was Judgment Day. So Judgment Day is not known. It was not on this album. Um, it was ultimately dropped, and it's one of the kind of like B sides and rarities that has frequently popped up. And yeah, like there are a lot of Bon Jovi fans who do know what Judgment Day is, but that is the song that has the na 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 na, which is from Born to Be My Baby. That was first used in Judgment Day. So you could say that Born to Be My Baby came out first as Judgment Day. And then there is a demo from Born to Be My Baby, which is pretty much the song as we know it, more or less. And then, but with different lyrics. And then there is the album version, which is pretty clear cut. It's like, it's very upbeat, it's very festive, happy. So there's that one. It's kind of like the the core product was the album version. Then there is the video version, and in the video they kind of like replay this process of creating something, and it opens up with them in the studio playing Born to Be My Baby, not being satisfied, and then John grabbing a guitar, meaning that they now have two guitars playing in the song, and kind of like restarting the song, rebooting it with two guitars, and there we have it, the full-blown version of Born to Be My Baby. So the official video, actually kind of like tells the story about how Born to Be My Baby came into being, because it was a process of trial and error and not being happy with it and changing it up. Then there is also the acoustic version, which was something that was kind of like invented in the late 80s by Bon Jovi. So you had the MTV Video Music Awards, and Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora did a performance. It was 88 or 89. I think 88, really. I think 88, but I'm not sure. Where they did this performance of Living on a Prayer and Wanna Dead or Alive, acoustic with just their guitars, sitting on two seats at the front of the stage. And they basically invented what would become a very popular MTV series, which was MTV Unplugged. But they were really the first to do it. So in the late 80s, doing something in an acoustic way, which was actually very novel. And the acoustic version of Born to Be a Baby is a fan favorite. So there's a lot of people who actually prefer the acoustic version, including the producer Bruce Fairbairn, who had always been a very strong advocate of doing it more in a ballad way, doing it more in a acoustic way, in a softer way, and not in such an upbeat party way. And so, which would have been, at the time, definitely would have well, maybe Born to Be maybe would have been a bigger hit if it had been an acoustic version, if it had been a ballad, because that was so new at the time. I think looking back, from where we are now, I'm recording this in 2026. I think, doing something acoustic or having an electric song and doing it acoustic it no longer really sparks joy. It's no longer really something where our ears prick up, right? it's like, yeah, it's a little bit old fashioned, but that's because it's 40 years ago. so so if you wanted to release Born to Be My Baby today, then the acoustic version would not be your most logical choice. But in the late 80s, I can understand why that was kind of like an option for a while there. Like, okay, shall we make it slower? Shall we make it an acoustic version? Shall we make it into more of a ballad? So I can understand why, yeah, why there were so many versions. So I will put all the versions, including Judgment Day, in the description box below, so that you can listen to them for yourself if you want to. Um, yeah, so it was the song was placed at number 18 by Tony Kosminski. So he has created an article with all the Bon Jovi songs ranked, and and this one's at number 18. But for example, "Lay Your Hands on Me" was, I think, at 11. So "Born to Be a Baby" is pretty high up because there are over 350 Bon Jovi songs. So that's a lot. And so "Born to Be a Baby" is at 18, which is high, especially considering that it's not a like has never been one of their biggest hits or anything like that. So it was included in the tours in the 1988 and 1989 tours. Then for a while it disappeared and then came back around 2000 in the Crush tour, and it has been like on the set list ever since. So it has become an evergreen, but it had like a little, it was put to rest for a little while and then got back on, and it stayed there. So let me see. Do I have anything else to add? Oh yeah, there was even another version. This is a really good one. There was even another version, which is their live version, which is with a harmonica. So amidst all the confusion about which Born to Be and Born to Be a Baby are we going to choose, there was John Bon Jovi who wanted to add a harmonica to the song, and the story goes that it was vetoed 4-1, and so John was not allowed to do the harmonica on Born to Be a Baby on the record, but he did do it. He did add the harmonica for the live performances, at least the ones in the 80s. And so that's actually the final. The final version is the live version. I will also give you a link to that one. And yeah, so that was like another thing I wanted to say about this. So yeah, the life lesson. The life lesson is that once you start toying around with something without having a very clear vision about what you're looking for, you gain something, which is in this case like 5 different versions, but you also lose something. You lose that power that Bad Medicine and Lay Your Hands on Me did have. So you make it very difficult for yourself if you start toying around and be playful and kind of like investigate something. Because it takes the power out of it. Or maybe you could say that you're blessed when you do have a vision for something, when you are very certain about what you're aiming for, and that you can see that if you don't have that, if you don't have that really strong vision, then you just start playing around and you can get something that will get you on number 18 of the this 350 plus Bon Jovi songs. You can still get to number 18 if you don't have a vision and you play around and you experiment. um, but that it's not ideal. I think ultimately it's not ideal. I mean, I'm all for creativity and um, and playfulness, but I think you can see here that in terms of the end result, you do kind of like miss that power. You miss that ambition that the first two songs on this New Jersey record do have. Lay Your Hands on Me has it, and Bat Madison has it, and it is that kind of like that singular drive, that singular push for something that Born to Be My Baby doesn't have, because it was created in a different way. And you can see it was created in a different way because there are so many different versions. And yes, I think that is the life lesson that uh, you can't create a vision, you can't create a push or ambition, or but if you have it for whatever part of your life or whatever thing that you are creating, if you do have a vision, if you do have an idea about what it should be able to do or what you want out of it, then really cherish it, because you're not going to get it every time. You know, that to have a kind of like the gift of clarity. When you have the gift of clarity, even if it's something really big, something really ambitious, something really powerful that kind of like intimidates you, like, oh my God, how am I going to pull that off? It is a gift. It is a gift, because if you don't have that, then it's kind of like trial and error, and it starts it becomes something that will never have that strength that you are able to give something if you have a vision. So I think that is really the life lesson here, that whatever area it is in your life, if you have a vision, that really, really cherish it, because it's something really powerful, and it's not something that you can create if it's not there. Either it's there or it's not there. Okay, so that was it for today. Next time, life lessons in Bon Jovi songs with Living in Sin. Living in Sin. Oh, that was a fun topic. Let's go Living in Sin. Live in Sin. Okay, yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.